Hey, welcome to the Offline Podcast with John Jackson. We want you to subscribe to our podcast and join our team. Hey, show us some love by hitting that like button. And we welcome comments and questions. So visit theofflinepodcast.com so we can stay connected. Today we've got another special guest. All my guests are special, but this one's a little shorter than most. So he's done media in Cincinnati for years. I don't want to tell how long because then I'm telling his age. But he does the Bengals pregame show, which he does a great job. And I want to welcome to the podcast Wayne Box Miller. Wayne, thanks for coming.
Thank you, man. It's a pleasure to be a guest of yours, man. The Rolodex of guests you've had already to get me in here, I'm blown away.
You are number 6, and I'm just, when I started this podcast, it was about just talking to the guys that I knew and kind of reconnecting with them. And I've had such a good time, but I've got a pretty good producer in Jordan who keeps me pretty grounded. And I love doing this.
Jordan's a beast, man. I'm a big fan of Jordan, so it's all good.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking about Jordan Jackson, not the Jordan. So
I'm talking about Jordan Jackson.
Yeah.
That's my guy, man.
Yeah. So, Box, so tell me, how did you get started in your career? I'm interested in that, your media career.
Yeah. Interesting, John. I went to school. A lot of people don't know this, Morehead State University. Went down there, played basketball my freshman year, so I don't have any prolific scoring stories or anything like that. I played my freshman year on junior varsity, and that was it. But I wanted to be an artist. I actually went to school to be an art major, and I didn't like the art teacher. Maybe it was me, maybe it was him, but I decided to go into communications because at Woodward, where we're both graduates of, I won a contest for writing a commercial and recorded it, and ended up going to the state competing. And I thought, you know what, I might as well go into communications, man, since I did so well in that. And that's what started this whole thing, man, just how God works. You think you're going in one direction. And so I got into the work world, and all of a sudden just wanted to get into business. And you know how hard it is, man. And I got an opportunity. I did marketing for New York Times, and from there, I moved over into other aspects of the business. And then when WIZF, the Wiz, first came into the market, is when I really got into it full time. I used to do things at WCIN. I had a show called the Midnight Happy Hour, where I played, all the slow jams and stuff like that. Young people don't know anything about that. But so I got into it full time. And then from there, David Fulcher was doing some stuff for us in radio. And we talked about working together because I've been around athletes. And from David Fulcher, I connected with Eric Davis and his cousin Rennie, unfortunately, who passed early this year, man. It just broke my heart. But that's when it started. And, from Eric Davis, it just catapulted because he's just an unbelievable person to work with and work for.
Yeah. And you had a show that I was on, I guess, when I was with Cincinnati. I was never good enough to be on it when I was with the Steelers, but so all I remember is I'd be sitting at home and people were like, "Oh, you ever listen to Box Show?" I'm like, "Yeah, I listen to Box Show. I don't think I'm good enough to be on there." So, but tell me how that experience was. So that was I'm trying to remember. You had ET with you.
Yeah, the Primetime Sports Show. And
right.
We ran 8 years, great show. And I'm not saying that for me, but I'm just humbled that we won awards as best sports talk show. I mean, we were the only African-American sports talk show in this region, probably only a handful in the entire United States. But Eric and I had always talked about doing a show together. I mean, because he was someone that I represented for marketing, and we just always clicked, man. And I learned so much about football from him. And we always said, man, if we ever get a chance, we should do a show together. And when I was involved in radio, we were talking to Jonathan Love, and Ross Love had just purchased the stations. And I said, hey, man, we need to do a sports talk show. There's not a black voice in sports in this city. And so Steve Love was the general manager at that time. And Jonathan called me one day and said, hey, you still interested in doing the show? put something on paper and get it to us. And I did. And we talked, we met, we played golf, right? Which is a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing. I'm play golf and talk.
Always a beautiful thing, right?
And the Primetime Sports Show was born, man. And man, eight fantastic years of great guests and callers, and just, it was a great experience.
Yeah, I know when I was on your show, you had a lot of great listeners, and it always kind of took me back because when I came to Cincinnati, it was kind of my twilight years.
Sure.
So, but it was always that satisfaction of people, recognize, what I've done, inside of Cincinnati. And I don't try to, boast that I've done a lot, but I've done enough things to give back. And
Yes.
It's something that when I do give back, I'm not doing it for the recognition.
Well, John, one thing I've always liked about you is that you're a quiet giver. And, a lot of times people would give for notoriety and things like that. And I never truly knew all the things you did unless it came up in a conversation in a matter of fact kind of way where we just happen to be talking about giving, or you were giving and asking me to help you give,
Mm-hmm.
I always appreciated that about you. And I also appreciated your availability because, in this business, man, so many guys, you ask them to come through and they say yes, they don't show. They say
Mm-hmm.
yes, they call 5 minutes before and say they're not going to be there because of, there was a hole in a donut or something like that. But, if you said you're going to be there, I put it down. You were going to be
there. Yeah. I learned that from Pittsburgh, actually. Your word's pretty much your bond. If you say you're going to show up somewhere,
yeah,
you show up there. Because I think a lot of young guys don't understand that. Box, tell us, why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's entitlement. I think so many players are coddled. I think so many players are just given free reign. And if a kid is playing at an elite level at junior high school or high school, the coach is scared of losing them because of losing the opportunity to win it all, whatever all is, state title, AAU tournament. But what they're doing is hurting the kid because they're letting the kid go without accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So as these kids become adults and you say, hey, man, we need you to come through, or can you come through, or here's a charity event, and they go, oh, yeah, I'll be there. And they just get a flippant reason for not showing up. It doesn't matter to them. And that's been cultivated by no accountability because they typically say, well, I'll quit the team. And then the coach, oh, hey, man, wait a minute. Where in our day, if you said, I'll quit the team, and the coach said, well, quit now. You don't wait.
Right.
You can.
But I think the whole thing too is like you said about the entitlement, but I think players now try to be like unapproachable and they think they're on this big plateau. Well, the only thing about that big plateau is, you're at the top, but the same people you shit on the way up are going to be the same people shitting on you on the way down. And eventually whatever goes up has to come down.
Right.
And that's what Tunchokin told me that. And that always resonated with me because it was one of those things where, you know what, you're never too big. You're never too big to be told, who you really are, but you always have to remember where you came from. And that's what I think a lot of kids don't understand. They don't remember. They kind of, block that out of their mind and say, hey, you know what, I'm here.
Right.
But it took a long time for you to get there, though.
Yes.
A lot of people helped you along the way, and I think they really forget about that.
Yeah, there are no self-made men.
No, somebody's always helped somebody, and that's what I always try to do with young people. If who ask me for their advice, I would, I'll give them my advice, and I'm saying, listen, you can take it or not take it, but this is how I see it, and I try to be truthful with them.
Right.
So, what other shows did you do besides radio shows? Did you do any TV stuff?
Yeah, I did Sports Rock on Channel 5 for 8 years. And
okay.
I was part of the original cast of Sports Rock. It was Ken Brew, George Vogel, E.T., and myself. And what happened was they wanted to bring in, a different perspective as part of the show. And it was a great run, man. It's fun to be on the set doing sports in an extended period. Sports on TV now in the news segment, man, is probably 60 seconds, if that. And
Yeah.
so to have that realm of sports for 20, 30 minutes to really dive into things was fun. I even had a character I did on there for a while, but that was fun. And then I wrote for the Cincinnati Herald for a while, and I did that for a number of years, just penning a column. And so I've been around sports in various aspects. I was thinking earlier, when you talk about just what's going on in the world of sports, I think I've had every part of sports covered, like the fan. We are all fans. I've been a representative of players. I've done media, and now I work for a team. So I've touched every aspect of sports you could touch.
So you've done a lot of different sports. What's your favorite, the radio or the TV?
I actually like radio. And the reason I like radio is because radio is more of your personality. I
Hmm.
think with TV, there's a limit and a structure that you have to adhere to. But I think what made the Primetime Sports Show, and I remember other sports talk people saying to us, you guys get people we would never get. And we had Charles Barkley and Steve Harvey. And I remember the funny story I always tell is when Eric Davis came on one day, and, typically, this, John, you're on for maybe one or two segments. And
Right.
Eric Davis comes in and says, I'm doing the whole damn show. So for 2 hours, Eric is just, I mean, he was just incredible. And that's what radio does. The spontaneity of radio is you can do so many things. I mean, even when you came on and we might start talking about Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, but we could migrate into something else. And
Hmm.
because the way brothers talk sports, and not that it's just us exclusively, but we talk
Right.
about it different. And so it's
Hmm.
nothing for John Jackson, the offensive lineman, to go over into this conversation here. And then, we got to talk about people. I mean, so, we have fun and do it in a way. But radio, you can do that. TV, I think there's just a limit.
Right. Right. I mean, I've done a little TV, but I mean, I really enjoy the radio, but I enjoy this podcast too because
Yes.
you can edit. So that's a good.
Edit is a beautiful word.
Edit is a beautiful thing, especially when you start mumbling your words. Like, okay, Jordan, make me look good. And that's always tough. Jordan, make me look good, dude. Just
Yes.
make me
Yes.
look good. No, so what do you think about? I've got to ask you about Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's a real deal, but can he hold up for all these games? Because right now he's on a hell of a pace of sacks. I know they gave up 8 last week. They gave up 1 the week before, but then they gave up, I think, 13. So they were at 14. They were. All I know is I talked to Solomon, and you listen to Solomon, and he was saying that they're on a record pace
Yes.
through those stats, and I think it was like 74. That kid's he's gonna be hurting by the end of the year. They give up 74 sacks.
Yeah, I think I really like this kid. Let me tell you, I mean, I had heard Solomon talk glowingly about him before he got here.
Mm-hmm.
ET, who's a defensive back who evaluates quarterbacks a lot different than most people, talk glowingly about him. Other people in the industry I knew talked glowingly about him. And then when
Mm-hmm.
he got here, and John, you know this, there are just certain things, man, that people possess that as God gives them gifts he doesn't give everybody else. Like that line he was in was about 3 people when God was giving out gifts. And one
Mm-hmm.
of them was natural leadership ability, and the other was this thirst for knowledge. And the story I know for sure is that when he first started taking reps in training camp, I think he had a bad play, threw a pick or something, and he walked across the line of scrimmage to Josh Bynes and said, What'd you see? What did I do wrong there?" And Josh Bynes said, "I've never had a rookie come over to me and ask me
Right.
what happened, but this kid wants to get it right, man." I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
got the playbook. He called Zach up, "Hey, I need more. I've got this down. I need a little bit more." And then when you listen to him talk, and John, you'll appreciate this. I mean, even after the one game where he was sacked repeatedly, and he said, "Hey, man, I believe in my guys. I've got to do a better job of getting rid of the ball earlier. I know they're putting in their best work and things of that nature." Every offensive lineman is trying like heck to protect the quarterback. And as James Francis said a long time ago, the other guy gets paid too. And I think people forget that, but I think they're going to have to continue to accelerate protection and protecting him. And I don't know whether that's, shortening routes or, doing some different things like that, but they got to get the ball out of his hand a lot quicker. And then he's got to do that as well. I think the great thing about Baltimore, and football people know this like yourself, the great thing about Baltimore was a litmus test for him.
Mm-hmm.
This is not LSU anymore. This is not the SEC. You cannot hold the ball that long. And he'll learn that.
There's a clock in the back of your head that,
Yes.
I've been sitting here too long and bad things are about to happen. And normally when you start thinking that, bad things happen. So
his own
I used to always
LSU, Patrick Queen was the one that reminded him of bad things happening. And and I think he'll learn. And I think that's a great thing about playing in this division. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh obviously is always good. Baltimore is always good. Cleveland is much improved. Right now, AFC North is probably top to bottom the best division in football. But
I think it's going back to that black and blue, like back in the day.
Yes. And so I think for him, he really now knows where the bar is. And to your point earlier, you got to go inside the head and say, okay, I got to adjust that clock. And I've got to take a second off that clock now and get rid of that ball. But I think he'll do it. It is different.
And I think he's got to stop running. Box. I mean, the kid's gonna get killed running. I mean,
that's RG3.
You could do that stuff in college, but you got everybody back there in that secondary. Those guys aren't afraid to hit because that's what they get paid for. They get paid to stop you. And if they're not stopping you, they're not gonna be back there very long.
Yeah, and that's what I liked about him. That's what I liked about him on what game was the game that they won here, and he took
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. He slid both times in the fourth quarter, and just got down. You don't need extra yards. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to prove anything. Get down. And I saw him do that twice. I said, this kid's got his head in the game, and that's so important.
Mm-hmm. So, Box, what do you think the city's mentality is? Not for Joe Burrow, because I know everybody I talk to is really excited about Joe Burrow's potential in his future. But what do you think about the fan base here in Cincinnati right now overall? I mean, they're not winning, so you know how that goes.
Yeah, I think right now the fan base is excited because of Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. I think they're willing to lean in to developing him. I think obviously the fans want to see what the team does. And again, I'm not an apologist. I'm a realist. Mm-hmm. You draft Jake Fisher, it didn't work out because people always say, oh, you got to address the offensive line. You got to address the offensive line. They draft Jake Fisher. Didn't work out. Number 1 pick, Cedric Ogbuehi. Didn't work out. Draft Jonah Williams. He gets hurt his first year. Those are 3 picks on the offensive line, which were addressed because they knew that they needed to address the offensive line. Bad luck, karma, whatever you want to call it, just didn't serve the team well. So Price was another number 1 pick. And so you look at 3 of those 4 picks were number 1 picks. I think Fisher was number 2. Mm-hmm. They addressed the front line. So
the only thing I say about that is, Cincinnati's never had the reputation about developing offensive linemen. I mean, I think in order to have a true offensive line, you got to develop those guys. Mm-hmm. Maybe you go get somebody in the later rounds and say, hey, you know what? This guy's going to be all right, but we got to develop him. And Cincinnati, to my knowledge, they've never had that mentality, even though even when I was playing against them, they would – I think at one time they had 8 number 1 picks on the team.
Wow.
And that's scary. That is scary.
Yeah, because
so that means you're having a bad year.
You got to cash in. And I often think about Baltimore, with all the number 1 picks they had, Ed Reed, Peter Boulware, Ray Lewis, Jimmy Smith. I mean, they had all these number 1s all over the field. And I think, again, you look at the freak injury last year to Jonah Williams, just as soon as practice starts, bam, you're done for the year,
Yeah.
You look at Billy Price, bam, hurts his foot. He's missing X number of games. And it's like over and over. I always laugh and say the curse of Pedro Bourbon moved down the street. Went from the Reds to the Bengals because, like now, look at all the defensive linemen that you bring. DJ Reader in, he's playing at a high level, doing an exceptionally good job. Mike Daniels came in. Mike is a beast. I mean, these guys can't stay on the field, and it's like, man, come on. What do we need to do, man? Get some rosary beads or something. I don't know.
They all need to be in a little isolation bubble. And speaking of bubble, and what's your take on should the NFL go into a bubble? I mean, with all these teams having all these issues, and I don't think they can afford to miss any more games down the road. It's going to be impossible.
For me, John, I think the NBA got it right.
Right.
And I think the NBA players, if you remember, initially the NBA players were complaining and hemming and hawing about, I got to go in a bubble and I can't see my family and all. And after a while, they just start playing basketball. Mm-hmm. And you didn't hear any complaints.
Right.
And you didn't hear about any positive tests.
Right. You did hear some guys getting kicked out, and
yes,
that's because they took that thing serious.
They took it serious. There was zero tolerance. And I think what the NFL is going to have to make a decision on, I mean, if it were me, obviously I have no power, but if it were me, I would assign every NFL team a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And this is home. And don't cry to me about my family and what, I mean, people go to war for this country and they're away from family. Now they have the right to cry. Right. I'm in foreign land with a gun and I don't know who's got a gun pointed at me. They have a right to complain and cry. You're making 6-7 figures and you're living a life of luxury. If you've got to sacrifice 4 months of living in a bubble,
I agree.
Number one, to keep the money coming in, that's first and foremost. But number two, like you said, get through the season. The NBA culminated a championship without a scar, a black eye, a blur. It was just done right. And I don't know if there are egos between leagues, like this commissioner is not going to do what this commissioner does, or we're not going to follow what they do. But if it were me right now, I'd be saying effective, November 1st or whatever, to give people time to make arrangements. Hey, everybody get a hotel and lock down.
I totally agree. I mean, just think about baseball. Baseball did the same thing for the playoffs. They took it to a site, and everybody's locked in, and they even brought family. So the family's there. I mean, yeah, if you got little kids, that's one thing. But to me, it's been really selfish to think that you're going to actually get through this thing and go out and do the normal things that everybody does. You can't do that right now because you're jeopardizing too much stuff. You're jeopardizing your liability. I mean, you're living, and you're jeopardizing the teams.
Yes.
To play. I mean, it's sad because there's a game on. Today's Tuesday. There's a game on at 4:30, and it shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there. That's going to be a hard week for both of those teams, for Tennessee and the Bills. Yeah. I mean, it's always hard on a Monday night game. So they get off. They get off on a Wednesday. They come back Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday's a travel day. So you're looking at 2 days instead of 3, but you need that rest, though. You need that rest. And that's what people don't understand. I used to tell people all the time, and they would ask, like, what's the hardest game? The Monday night games. And we would play 3 a year, and we'd be tired. And Kara knew that, we needed some time off, so we wouldn't come back until Wednesday. And then we'd be in no pads all week because he knew how much they took out of us.
Nice.
I mean, but if we won, we were good. But if we lost, we started hitting each other. We figured, you guys, you know what? You guys will be all right. You guys will be all right. So, Box, tell me, what else have you been doing as far as like charity work? I know you do a lot of charity work for different organizations, and great speaker. So, have you doing any charity work? I know it's COVID.
Yeah. I'm actually talking with several organizations now about joining some boards. I mean, I actually been interviewing them, and I don't want to sound like, you know.
Oh, you're big time now. You go join some boards,
No,
huh?
no, but it's about the time commitment because, you know, my focus is St. X, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
the work I do here, and then, you know, my hobby enjoyment on the weekend doing Bengals football. I don't want to commit to an organization and not work within that organization. I've never been one to just put my name on the ledger and not do anything. I mean, I've been involved with La Rosa's Hall of Fame for a long time now. And I mean, that's something that while I love being part of the La Rosa's Hall of Fame, the voting is just difficult. You got so many people that are worthy of being inducted in the Hall of Fame, but you only have so many votes. And so when you only got so many spots that you can put people on, I'm with the Public High School Hall of Fame. Also been involved. I donate time when needed to the Reds Community Fund. I've been involved in a lot of other charities, and the ones that I'm talking to now, I just want to make sure that I can commit because, as I was saying with St. X, you know, we do a lot of things here. Enrollment happens, you know, after hours, things of that nature. We have Hands Across Campus, which is our youth group that is involved in diversity and our parents across culture. So I have a lot going on here. So I want to be sure that whatever they're asking of their board members, that I'm in a position to commit to that.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about what you do at St. X. What's your role at St. X?
So I'm the director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And as I typically say, if you think of three buckets, you know, number one is diversity among our students. We're
Mm-hmm.
right at about 21% minority student population at St. X. And
Real? I didn't know that.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people are surprised to hear that, but we're trying to grow that number. So that's one area of focus. Number two is just our employee, our workforce. You know, we want to make sure that it's diverse. We want to make sure we respect our workforce. So gender equity, gender equality is very important, as well as diversity. Trying to recruit
Mm-hmm.
people of a diverse nature to work here. And then the other bucket is the community. One, getting out, telling our story. And number two, making sure that people understand that, you know, we are a place that you can send your kid. They're going to be treated fairly. There is a curriculum that is inclusive of other cultures. I mean, I was shocked, to be quite candid with you. I got here and they were teaching about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Maya Angelou. We brought in Miss Betty Roseman to talk about the civil rights period, things of that nature. So
Really?
yeah, yeah. So this stuff is going on to St. X, and to be fair to them, I owe them an apology because I thought they were doing nothing of the sort.
Right.
Uh,
I never. You would have asked me that. I would have never thought that.
exactly, exactly. I mean, we just launched our diversity page on the website, so a lot of what we do from a diverse perspective, we have that up there now, and so it's been really a great fit for me. It's really just a blessing. I always say it's like a godsend job, you know, like to be here and have people lean into what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have to give the credit to the president and principal here because they've leaned into everything we do.
Right. And how long have you been in that role?
I'm into my second year now, so I always say my first year was pandemic shortened. So, you know, I we got going good, and then the pandemic hit, so you had to cut it short.
Mm-hmm. So what's in the future for Box Miller down the road here? What do you see?
Well, you know, John, for me, I'm enjoying life, man. I'm, you know, as the old folks say, I'm on the back nine, and I'm just trying to get a couple of pars and maybe a birdie before I get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
No, I enjoy what I do with the Bengals. I think it's fun to be part of a broadcast team. And again, when you think about opportunities for us as men of color or people of color to do these kinds of things, man, I don't take it lightly, and I appreciate it. But that and being here at St. X, man, changing lives, man. I mean,
Bucks, that's an awesome thing if
and
you
for
can
me,
change some
it's not
lives.
just kids of color, man. It's all kids. Like I have
All
all
kids,
kids
exactly.
in my office, and they, Mr. Miller, you know, want to talk to you about this or that, and man, you know, a story I'll share with you, man. It blew me away last year. I'm in my office. You know, I speak to all the kids, man. I see them. We were fist bumping before the pandemic. That's my hello. Yes, fist bump.
Mm-hmm.
Different kids. One kid, man, he just kept, you know, warmed up to me right away. And man, probably second half of the school year, he sees me in the hall and said, Mr. Miller, can I talk to you for a second? I'm like, yeah, come on in my office. And he had a problem with a teacher, man. And he asked for my advice. This is
Mm.
a white student.
Right.
Not a student of color. But for this kid to have that much confidence in me to say, I was able to connect with you beyond color.
Right. That's
Hey,
trust, Box. That's what it is.
yeah,
Trust. Right.
blew me away, man. I mean, those kind of moments that I have often make this just a blessing, to be honest with you, John.
No, no. That's an awesome thing. Box, can you wait 1 second here? I've got to do a cigar commercial for
Yes.
John Bell.
If I'd known, I'd have grabbed one and pulled it up.
Hey, want to tell you about an awesome cigar place. It's called John Bell's, and I love smoking cigars. And I've got my favorite, an Avo, and I tell you, John Bell recommended me this cigar, and it's always been a favorite of mine. But go to John Bell's. On below the screen, you'll see his email and his phone number. Contact John Bell. Tell him John Jackson sent you, and I guarantee you'll be taken care of.
Yes, you will, and you'll get an insult as well as being taken care of. I still have that lighter that I got from him. That's really cool. It's like a lighter, cigar lighter. It is a divot repair tool.
Oh yeah, it slides out. Yeah, it slides out.
Yes,
yeah,
yes. I got that from Bell, man. I love that, man. Every time somebody sees that, I say, go to John Bell, man. It's like the best place, the only place I know you can get it.
Yeah, except, you can get it online, but you're better off going to Bell's. I mean, actually, that ball marker, if you stick it down in the ground, you can put your cigar on top of the thing. But I see people, the crazy thing about golf is I go out and I'm smoking cigars, and people throw their cigars on the ground. I will not do that. Have you ever seen me throw a cigar on the ground?
No.
And the reason why is because all that tobacco takes up anything that's on that ground and chemicals on that ground. That's why the grass is green. And I tell people, if you want to glow, keep throwing that cigar down on the ground. All those chemicals, they spray those chemicals for a reason because they want that place to be green. Yes. And it always amazes me. And I'm like, dude, I'm not. They were always, hey, John, you can put that cigar down? Nope, I'm not putting this thing down.
I got one of those on the cart. A guy gave me a clipper.
Yeah.
You put right on the side of the cart, and they just hold your cigar there.
Oh yeah, those things are good. But now the box, they got the little ashtrays where you can get at Bell's that you can actually sit in the golf cart in the cup holder.
Nice.
And sit the cigar in there.
Nice.
Because that's another thing too. I hate laying my cigars around because what happens is if God takes off, all of a sudden you're looking around, it's like, where's the cigar at? And it's like, it's way back there. It's like you've lost the cigar. And so, Box, let me I'm gonna take you back to when I was playing in Cincinnati. What I always liked about you were we could always talk about stories, but we know so many people of the same people, which is always funny. And especially being from Woodward, so we're definitely alumni high school. So tell me, how was Woodward changed when you were there? I know it's changed when I was there,
right?
But I never thought it would get to the point where it is right now. With it's supposed to be the number one homeless. They got the number one. When I say homeless, they've got the number one homeless status as far as students in the public school district. And that to me that's sad, man. That blows my mind.
It's so heartbreaking. I remember getting a call from someone about supplies, healthcare and beauty supplies. And I kid you not, John, I literally almost dropped the phone when they told me what they needed in terms of the basics.
Right.
Hygiene, toothpaste, deodorant, for the young ladies, feminine napkins. I'm just sitting there saying, are you kidding me? And they're like, no, we have a big need. And I remember going to Big Lots, and I just literally just cleaned out a couple of shelves. And, show you how, for me, man, I just love how God can bless you when you're trying to bless somebody else. Like, I was spending more than I probably should have, but I was just so hurt.
Right.
And I get to the counter, man, and the lady said, well, if you sign up today, you get like 25% off everything you buy. So not only do I take advantage of the sale they had, but then I got 25% off, and all because I was trying to do good. But I say that to say, man, how do you not do something for a school that when I went there,
Mm-hmm.
there was no such thing as somebody living homeless, and if it was, it may have been 0.1%,
Right.
because it was a mixed school when I was there. It was the large Jewish population from
Mm-hmm.
Amberley Village, and at that time, Roselawn was very Jewish, and Gulf
Mm-hmm.
Manor. But I just to see it go from that to go to a place now where people are messaging you, asking you for help. Um, Man, I don't even know where to start in terms of trying to understand how that happened or where we are as a society, that we have so many kids, man, that are in that shape. And how do they get through high school to potentially get on and do well in life if
Right.
they
I mean,
struggle just to get to school?
yeah. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, if I was homeless, would I really got through school? And the answer is no. I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, you're living from couch to couch, and you don't know where your next meal is coming from. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm gonna call on you to help me do this um, fundraiser, and we're gonna do it through the internet, and we're gonna ask for some donations,
Okay.
and I'm gonna make sure that me and you are involved in this because Box, you are so highly respected when it comes to giving back. So I want to make sure you're involved in this, and I want to get one more person from Woodward, but I
Yeah.
want to get people that have some accountability,
Yeah.
and put a little. I don't want you to put the skin I only want you to put in is time,
Right.
okay? And people always say, "Oh, you know what? I don't want to be a part of that because you're going to ask me for money." No, because to me, sometimes time is worth more than money. And that's what I've been doing with Woodward. That's why I do the golf outing. And I didn't do it this year because of COVID,
Sure.
but it,
Sure.
it really hurt me because we got to do something. We got to do something.
Yeah.
And
Count me in, because
yeah,
I'm more than happy to.
yeah. And I'm talking to a couple other people, and we're just trying to figure out how we can, you know, do this. I mean, it's just a fundraiser. Maybe we come up with like a slogan, give $5, or you know what? I just want people to participate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And that's the thing that I've been growing through my mind. It's like, okay, how can I just get people to participate? Because once people participate, then they know, I made such a big difference. Maybe it was a little, but it kind of has that snowball effect. It grows to
Moving
be
the
bigger.
needle is moving the needle, man. It doesn't care whether you move the needle a little bit or you move the needle all the way over to F. Moving the
Hmm.
needle is sustainable,
Right.
right? You
And
create.
I think that's what we got to do.
Yeah.
Um, Even though right now, we're going through two things. We're going through COVID, and plus we're going through that election. I cannot wait till this freaking election is over.
Yeah.
I am sick of ads, and I'm just I don't understand why people always call themselves right and left instead of being human being.
Good and bad.
That's what that's what I
Good
don't
and
get.
bad, right and wrong.
Yeah, so we got to come to a point where we got to just be freaking human beings and enjoy life, dude. Because hey, life is never promised. And you live life, like I said, I live life one day at a time, and every day is a blessing. And just like your phone call was always saying, if you're above ground, what's that?
You win.
You win, and it's all about winning.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you guys, man.
I'll have you back on. I really didn't want to ask. I told Tina, I was like, I can't really ask Box some really crazy questions. He won't fucking come back on the show.
Yeah, why does your team stink?
How come they can't? How come they can't fucking protect the quarterback? I mean, the whole thing about the Bengals. I mean, if you draft the number one pick, you better get some number one. You better get some people that can protect his ass. That's the bottom line. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I know when I went to San Diego, Ryan Leaf, they brought in a bunch of guys. They brought me in. They brought Aaron Taylor in because they wanted to make sure that we're going to protect this kid,
Yeah.
and that's what we did. And that's what you got to do.
Man, I
That's what you
think,
got to
like I
do.
said, boy, they whiffed. And, the luck of the draw, man. You figure Fisher, Obuehi, at least one would work out. They're both out of the league now. I mean, Obuehi was with Jacksonville last year, but Fisher never got on with anybody else. I don't think Obuehi signed with anybody else. And then Jonah Williams, hopefully he'll work out, but he missed a year already. So
yeah, this is a tough league. Yeah, this is a tough league. I mean, everybody brings somebody else in, and that's why everybody's like, "How did you last 14 years?" By the grace of God. I don't know.
Man, the grace of God and just the tenacity, and that's a word that's used too much. And what I hate about sports anymore, man, people use the word great and tenacity too much.
Right.
If somebody has one good game and they're like, oh, he's a great player. After one game?
Yeah, but think about this. Anytime I try to use great, it's like an afterthought. He's done that, not so much as done it one time. He's got to be, right in the sunset. He had a great career.
Yes.
That's the only time I try to use that word.
That's right, because longevity, you have to have longevity before you can mention a great word. Because consistency is a part of greatness. When you look at LeBron James, I mean, he's done this a long time.
Right.
Kareem did that a long time.
Long time. And Jordan did a long time.
Jordan did a long time.
Yeah.
And you look at like Tom Brady. I mean, look how long this dude has been playing, man. I mean,
20 years.
It's crazy.
Hey, Box, we lost a great Cincinnati Reds, a part of the Big Red Machines, Joe Morgan. And I see you got the Reds logo on your shirt.
Yeah.
What did Joe Morgan mean to the city of Cincinnati?
Well, I wore this for Joe Morgan. I knew I was going to be on with you, and I said, hey, man, this is just a small tribute to a big man. What Joe Morgan did, I think, was show people that size didn't matter. I mean, A lot of times when you think of sports, people think about, the big doggy Tony Perez or, Lee May, the big bopper from Birmingham, or you think about Johnny Bench and his, larger-than-life stature. But here comes this guy, man, Joe Morgan, small in stature, but he wasn't afraid of any pitcher. He wasn't afraid of any pressure-packed situation. And, two-time MVP and all the other accolades that he had, man, he was just that. But even more so when he left the game, he gave even more to the game, not only as a broadcaster, which I used to love him doing the national games of the week, but his involvement in the Reds Community Fund and ultimately the Baseball Academy. Joe Morgan's name is all over this city in ways that are visible, but I can promise you in ways that aren't visible, his name is readily attached to a lot of positivity.
Box, I want to thank you so much for doing this podcast.
I had fun, man.
Yeah. So, hey, guys, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast and join our team. And show some love with that like button. But we want your comments and questions. I can't say enough about my producer, but also make sure you visit us on our website, the offlinepodcast.com. I got to make sure I get all that stuff, Box, because my son has been on me.
We should be on you because the guests that you've had, and I'm just telling people right now, if you're listening to this podcast, I mean, Barry Larkin, Merrill Hodge, Solomon Wilcox, I mean, the list goes on. And John, I mean, seriously, man, this is a great platform. And I love when players like you are doing these types of shows because you can have conversations with players that we can't have. I'm a media guy. I'm this guy over here. But peer-to-peer, player-to-player, you guys have conversations that we want to hear. So I'm just telling people, man, subscribe, hit the like button because the guests that you've had and will have, I'm enjoying it, man. Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much, Box, and thanks for being on.
Yes,
hey,
sir.
I want you to make sure everybody understands, hey, we've got one life to live, so let's live our best life. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.